It's a Friday show, orange and blue today. Cecil, Lammey, Andrew Mason wrapping up what we saw at OTAs and mandatory minicamp as we look over everything, Mace. Defense is a little tougher because there's no live tackling. Okay,
Yeah.
so we should probably start there. But I'll tell you this, seeing the activity up front from the guys who will help stuff the run, but JFM and Malcolm Roach, those two guys, you can tell there's a little more activity up front. They're not tackling. They're not stuffing the run. But Mesa have an idea. They will help that greatly.
Activity and energy. And Malcolm Roach, a proven run stuffer. John Franklin Myers, his strength is more in the pass rush. But the thing that you saw quite often out there, again, no pads. I want to kind of put that caveat on there just like you did. But you see John Franklin Myers splitting blocks and setting up a TFL in the run game. And you saw Malcolm Roach making plays in the pass rush too, including a near interception when he got through in Wednesday's practice. And man, he celebrated that cease like it was week 8 against Kansas City. Like it was a big moment. And Malcolm Roach, he's one of those infectious guys, and everybody loves the energy that he brings. It's an intangible, but it's one of those reasons why it seemed like the Broncos, they had to have this very targeted free agent class that filled specific needs and was more about intangibles or like a specific skill set than just getting an overarching great player. And Malcolm Roach brings a couple of things that were missing in terms of being a plus player against the run and bringing a little more energy that defensive line. Anything he brings in a pass rush ceases a bonus.
Right. And isn't that kind of the pleasure of what we get to see, Mace? Because when Roach is picked up by the Broncos and nobody knows who it is, you and I go, oh, that's a big stuffer. Yeah, I remember Malcolm Roach. Like, he's a big stuffer. Then we see him in person and he's rushing the passer. Yeah. Like, oh my God, yes. And JFM, you mentioned JFM, they pick up John Franklin Myers, they make that move. And you and I are like, oh yeah, guy, help out on that pass rush. And then he's stuffing the run. Wow.
It's exciting. Like it's really exciting to see when there are glimpses of players showing they're more than the box that maybe you tried to put them into. And it creates a good problem because now you're looking at this defensive line and saying, okay, this area that appeared depth shy now appears to be deeper. And I think you kind of look at how that room's going to look and you start thinking, okay, Zach Allen, DJ Jones, Malcolm Roach, JFM, Matt Henningsen is kind of your high energy, a guy coming off the bench who told me on Wednesday night he's working on his pass rush, trying to improve that. And he had some moments in the pass rush as well during OTAs. It's all of a sudden you're feeling better. And we haven't even talked about the potential return of Enia Wazirike coming off the suspension potentially for the start of training camp. The defensive line is something that, again, no pads, I'm feeling better about than I did a few weeks ago.
Right. And it's fun hearing their teammates talk about Roach and JFM specifically, whether it's Alex Singleton or even Brandon Jones, who talked about that upfront guys. Here's what the veteran safety had to say.
Yeah, Malcolm he's honestly been the same since we were freshmen in college. He's definitely has the vocal leadership qualities. He's a guy that keeps everybody and holds everybody accountable. Goes 100 miles an hour every time he's on the field, and just really brings that juice.
Brings the juice.
I will admit I got a little bit nervous when I heard that he brings the juice because that's a VJ term. Remember back in 2017, looking for guys with juice. Maybe VJ is a little more accomplished at finding guys with juice on the defensive side, because when he took his stabs at finding those guys on the offensive side, he came up with Carlos Henderson and Isaiah McKenzie. And McKenzie had some juice. It just took a little bit of more of a squeeze to get out, and Buffalo ended up squeezing that juice out of Isaiah. So I heard that and I'm like, oh, I guess VJ's been using that word in team meetings.
Right. Well, I think of Juice and I think of the Tupac movie Juice. And Tupac, in addition to being perhaps the best rapper we've ever had, like he was also a great actor on the come up.
Yeah.
And I do celebrate his entire catalog, or Poetic Justice or Gridlocked or whatever. But in Juice, at the end, the last line of the movie is, "You got the juice now."
Yeah.
So like, yeah, Malcolm Roach. And then he said vocal leadership. And thinking of that play in the way that Roach celebrates, like everything
Mhm.
is,
Yeah.
that's what they call vocal leadership. Okay.
Well, I think that's also energy. Vocal leadership is something that maybe we don't see as much of because it happens in the locker room.
Mm-hmm.
And he talked about, because Brandon Jones, who's known him since their days at the University of Texas several years ago, he talked about holding everybody accountable, which you are looking for at least one player in every position group who is the one that's holding everybody accountable. And that takes kind of a vocal presence, right? It's, you can have quieter players who are very diligent, and very accomplished, and very successful, but they're focused kind of more on what they're doing or leading by example. You need some of that vocal presence. And make no mistake, Justin Simmons, even though he played safety, Justin Simmons was that vocal presence for the entire defense, and he's not there anymore. And so you look at the addition of someone like Malcolm Roach, and even though safety, defensive tackle, completely different position groups, obviously, that vocal side, that part of it is about trying to collectively replace Justin Simmons, at least the presence that he had. And it's not just with new players, it's also with players that you have coming back as well and assuming larger roles.
Right. Malcolm Roach, JFM, that defensive line, improving the run defense. We've heard Alex Singleton talk about how you have those big bodies, clear them out, how that really helps for run defense. But pass defense at the inside linebacker position was filled, hopefully, by Cody Barton. But I'm here to tell you, Mace, we're talking about standouts on the defense here on a Friday. I've seen too many clap plays from Cody Barton in minicamp and OTA. So it's like, and the clap plays, what I mean by that, and we've talked about one of them, but he had one on Wednesday as well, where it's like, it's a completion, but he was right there, right?
Yeah.
Oh man, I was right there. No, Cody, they need you to get that, not clap the play, knock the damn ball down. And I've seen two, to be precise. Maybe that's too many for my taste, because Cody Barton's here to help coverage.
On the one hand, you're glad he's in position
to
have a chance.
Right.
And I would argue that's an improvement.
It is.
Especially against tight ends compared to what we've seen the last few years, right?
Well, it was another Kroll play to flash back. It was another Kroll play, and Kroll just made the move, man.
Kroll made the move, but I'll tell you what, when Kroll makes the move on Cody Barton, who's fairly accomplished in coverage, that's another reason why I'm excited about Lucas Kroll on the other side, compared with, respectfully, if you make that move against Josie Jewell or even Alex Singleton coming back, coverage is not their strong suit. With Josie Jewell, and obviously you can't talk about Barton without talking about Jewell, because Barton is one of the players brought in to potentially be a replacement for Jewell, although it's a healthy competition here. It's Jonas Griffith getting some snaps. It's, Justin Strnad getting some snaps. It's even, Sean Payton talked about Lavelle Bailey, the undrafted rookie out of Fresno State, and he's gotten some looks as well. So it's pretty wide open. I wonder if some of that is you're trying to push Cody Barton. Now, Barton's only had 1 year as a full-time starter. That came last year in Washington. And so thus he's something of a projection in terms of how he can handle it. But you watch the Washington film and it's okay. He's making plays in coverage, but also, and this is where you need Cody Barton, if he's your starter, isn't going to work without a vastly improved defensive line, because if that D line isn't doing his job and teams are running at Cody Barton, it's gonna be rough, and you're concerned about that.
Yeah, you're concerned about that. But Sean Payton was asked about Cody Barton, and Coach went on for a bit. So listen in on what Coach had to say.
Well, first off, there were two elements to it. We saw, he had a chance really for the first time in his career to play a large part of his season as a starter. So we saw that. We saw the good. We saw the things that weren't as good. And we always knew that he was an A special teams player. And so the vision became easy relative to, hey, he comes in and competes for Mike. And we know he's someone that also can play a four-core teams role for us. But there's open competition there. We've got Jonah. We've got like 3 or 4 players that we're going to rotate through. And again, that's one where once the pads get on, I think it'll be a little bit easier to evaluate. But Cody was someone that we got to see more defensive snaps from last year than at any point in his career. And so there was a clear vision relative to, all right, what he can do at linebacker and then what he can do in the kicking game. And he's young.
Okay, when he said get the good, in my mind, I thought he was going to start saying, you take the good, you take the bad, you take them all, and there you have the facts of life, the facts of Cody Barton.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But again, this free agent class, you weren't getting top of the line guys just because of where you were at in terms of your cap. So it was, okay, how do we find players with specific skill sets? So you found Malcolm Roach, run stuffer. You go to the second line of defense. You say, okay, if we're going to lose Josie Jewell to Carolina, how do we at least find somebody who can improve coverage, which has long been an issue? I mean, again, several years, we've always been talking about the Broncos don't have the personnel, don't have the horses to cover
Since
tight ends.
Danny was the last one.
Yeah. I mean, it was unfortunately, Brandon Marshall had that capability, but injuries caught up to him.
Right.
Like, you remember that Falcon game? It's not so tight ends, running backs out of the backfield. Remember that Falcon game in 2016? And B. Marsh was just a step slow, right?
Mm-hmm.
Coming all, dealing with all those foot problems that he had. And then, Todd Davis, sometimes he got good in the box, but sometimes he got exposed too in coverage. And so that's why Cody Barton, it's interesting to bring him in. I don't know how you felt. He's a guy I really like coming out of Utah back in 2019 in the NFL draft, ended up going to the Seahawks. But that was a player that I thought actually made some sense for the Broncos. Now, it's funny to talk about him in coverage and being a player who struggles against the run, because in the midst of all this as well, the Broncos brought back Justin Sternad, special teamer, but when the Broncos drafted him, it was as a coverage linebacker, something he did exceptionally well at Wake Forest.
Yep.
But he was such a liability against the run, if you recall, when he started midway through the 2021 season, particularly in that disastrous game against the run in Cleveland on Thursday night, where I swear there are still Dearness Johnson cleat marks on the remaining players from that defense. And very, very quickly, a move right after that was to move Baron Browning when he started playing to inside linebacker for the rest of that season. It was just, how do we just get players out here who can help? Because
stop the bleeding.
Stop the bleeding. Because remember, Josie Jewell got injured in week 2 in Jacksonville. Like, he got injured on covering a punt. Why was he doing that? that injury was kind of a fork in the road moment for Josie Jewell. Not that he's not been a good player, but the way he started that 2021 season, he looked like he was approaching elite. And he's never gotten back to that level that he showed in those first game and a quarter of the 21 season, where you thought this guy's really turning a corner. It's just how quickly it can go away, but it's part of the Broncos. seemingly never-ending search for better coverage from their inside linebackers. Hopefully Cody can change that.
Hopefully that's what happens. And then hopefully replacing Justin Simmons is an aggregate approach. But PJ Locke is the guy. Speaking of special teams, a guy who is a standout player. I was actually talking to Nick Ferguson on Wednesday about PJ, about how he told PJ, don't get stuck on special teams like I did, because you're going to be so good at special teams, they're not going to want to take you off there. And Locke is a great special teams player, but you know what else, Mace? He's looking like a great starting defender as well.
He looked that way last year too, and all you have to do is look at the Buffalo game early on for the defense, and then after he got hurt and Delarian Turner-Yell had to go in, you still have Justin Simmons out there. But, I mean, you talk about a drop-off like the edge of the Grand Canyon, that was it. And I would assert if PJ Locke doesn't get injured in that game, Cease, the Broncos win that game going away by 2 touchdowns on Monday night in Buffalo. Josh Allen, went right at the soft spot in the defense.
It's smart.
And it's smart. It's what you do. But then PJ, knowing the situation, when Kareem Jackson got suspended again the following week against Minnesota and never played for the Broncos after that, PJ knew he had to hurry his way back. He was legitimately playing injured when he came back. And yet he fared really well. He passed a lot of very stern tests last year, which is why Sean Payton and George Payton didn't hesitate to re-sign him before the market opened up.
Yep. And that's why PJ Locke is being counted on. But still, even after showing last year what he could do, even after having the trust of the coaching staff, PJ Locke said, I still got a chip on my shoulder.
Yeah, man, I feel like I still have a chip on my shoulder. I got some personal goals that, I'm not going to really discuss that I want to accomplish. So those are things that keep me hungry. And, I still have this mindset of, just proving it to myself. And so it's no slack being cut at all that maybe I have some stability or not. It's all like intrinsic motivation for me.
I like that. Intrinsic motivation. Self-starter. Doesn't need that push from the outside. He finds it within himself. Always has.
Yeah. Glue guy. Really smart and a glue guy.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good combination.
Yeah. Malcolm Roach is a glue guy too. We did a show on glue guys.
Yes, we did.
If this team is going to succeed, it's going to have to exceed the sum of its parts. To exceed the sum of your parts, you've got to be together. And you can't be together without the glue that adheres everyone. So you don't fall apart when things get rough. You stick together.
Mm-hmm.
It's one reason why, even though we see the things about where this roster stacks up talent-wise, what was it? PFF had them 32nd. I think ESPN had them down there as well. And we're not going to sit here and tell you right now that this roster is top 10, top 15 in terms of talent today. It's not.
No.
It's not top 20. But if you get the right collection of players and they're together, can they be more than the sum of their parts? And that's why I can't see this team being worse than 7-10, because I can see these bonds developing. You can see that this team's going to be well coached. I think we're probably going to look at whatever their record is at the end of the season, Cease, and say, man, they got the most out of this. The most possible.
Well, Mace, you're doing this being together, right? I'll do something a little bit different because you're a lover, not a fighter. A little both. What hurts more? 5 fingers say to the face or this? The fist. When they come together, right? Hey, I can slap you. I can punch you. And this team's going to have some punch.
Well, I was thinking of the scene in Armageddon when the scientist talks about the firecracker.
Yeah, that's right. Well,
And if
Broncos,
it's just in your hand, it burns your hand. If you close your fist around the firecracker, as the guy says, your wife's opening your ketchup bottles for the rest of your life.
oh, this Broncos team is ready to punch. They've got some punch. So we wrapped up offense and defense. And oh boy, as we take a little bit of a break in terms of being out at Broncos Park presented by Common Spirit.
BPPBCS.
BBPCS.
Although sometimes they'll say it's only C because Common Spirit in their vernacular is one word. I don't get that. Just why?
It's 2 words.
It's two words.
Sorry.
Being cute. Don't like it.
Well, we're not being cute. Well, I guess maybe we are. Because while the Broncos are on a break, I can't wait for people to see what we've been doing, man. Because during this break, we're not taking a single break. We have shows after shows after shows. What if, would you rather, position previews. I'm very proud of the work that we do, Mace, and I'm so excited for the audience to be able to see what we've got for them when there's no football.
There's no football, but there's always something to talk about.
We're some chatty blankety blankers, right?
Yeah, we are. It's
Well,
exciting.
get ready. It is. What else is exciting is you helping us out on YouTube. How can they do that, Mace?
Like,
comment,
share,
subscribe,
hit that notification bell
so that you
never
miss
a
vid.
vid.
That's right. He's Andrew Mason. Follow him on all the socials at Mace Denver. I'm at Cecil Lammey saying OBT is BFD. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned, and would you please stay frosty.